Before stone roads carved lines across the land, before foreign banners rose over hill and valley, Britain was a world shaped by wind, fire, and belief. This was a land untouched by empires, where forests stretched endlessly and rivers moved like living spirits through the earth. Long before Rome would set its eyes on these shores, the people of Iron Age Britain had already built a way of life deeply rooted in the land beneath their feet. The people who lived here did not call themselves Celts, but today we use that name to describe the many tribes scattered across the island. They were not one united nation. Instead, Britain was a patchwork of tribal territories, each defined by rivers, hills, and ancient paths worn into the soil by generations before them. The land was not something to be owned or conquered. It was something to be respected, feared, and honored. Life revolved around the rhythms of nature. The turning of the seasons determined when crops were planted, when animals were moved, and when communities gathered. Farming was at the heart of survival. Fields of barley and wheat were cultivated using iron tools that gave the age its name. Livestock, cattle, sheep, and pigs were more than food sources. They were symbols of wealth, status, and survival. A successful harvest meant life. Failure meant hunger. Their homes reflected both practicality and protection. Most people lived in round houses made of timber, mud, and thatched roofs, clustered together in small settlements. Some tribes built hillforts, rising above the landscape like silent guardians. These forts were not just military defenses. They were centers of trade, ritual, and community life, offering safety in times of conflict and unity in times of peace. Iron Age society was built on relationships between families, between tribes, and between people and the unseen world. Leadership was often held by chieftains or warrior kings, whose authority depended not only on strength, but on loyalty. Power was personal, not absolute. A leader was expected to protect the tribe, distribute wealth, and prove their worth through courage and generosity. War was a constant presence, but it was not chaos. Conflict followed tradition and honor. Warriors were admired figures, celebrated for bravery and skill. Iron weapon swords, spears, and shields were crafted with care and often decorated not just as tools of war, but as symbols of identity. To fight was to defend the land, the people, and the ancestors who came before. Yet the Celts were not only warriors, they were traders and craftspeople, deeply skilled in metalwork, pottery, and textiles. Their designs were intricate and flowing, inspired by nature rather than rigid lines. Swirling patterns, animal forms, and abstract shapes reflected their belief that nothing in the world was static. Everything moved. At the heart of Iron Age Britain was belief. The spiritual world was inseparable from daily life. The Celts believed that the natural world was filled with spirits and forces that had to be respected. Rivers, groves, and springs were sacred places where offerings were made. These were spaces where the boundaries between the human world and the divine grew thin. Druids held a powerful place in society. They were the keepers of knowledge, law, and tradition. They did not write their teachings down, believing that wisdom was meant to be carried in memory and spoken word. Druids acted as judges, advisors, healers, and spiritual leaders, shaping the moral and cultural backbone of the tribes. Death was not an ending, but a transition. Burial practices varied, but many believed in an afterlife, or a continuation of the soul. Grave goods stools, weapons, and ornaments were placed beside the dead, meant to accompany them into the next world. The past was never far away. Ancestors were remembered, honored, and believed to influence the living. Despite their deep connection to the land, Iron Age Britain was not isolated. Trade networks stretched beyond the island, linking tribes to mainland Europe. Goods like wine, jewelry, and coins made their way across the sea, along with ideas and influences. Change arrived slowly, carried by merchants and travelers, not soldiers. But that would not last forever. Beyond the horizon, a powerful force was growing an empire that believed in order, roads, and conquest. Rome would soon arrive, bringing with it steel discipline and foreign rule. When it did, it would encounter a people fiercely connected to their land, their traditions, and their freedom. The Iron Age Celts of Britain were not waiting to be civilized. They were already living in a world shaped by meaning, memory, and the land itself, a world that would be forever changed, but never entirely erased.